My sister's words hit like ice water in my veins. We had a family vote, and we all decided that Sophia is no longer our sister. She delivered this announcement on Christmas morning like she was reading the weather forecast. Her voice cut through the sound of wrapping paper and holiday music. The living room didn't go quiet. Instead, my cousin Tyler started clapping like she'd just announced free ice cream. Uncle James raised his mug of hot chocolate in an actual toast. Even my mom, the woman who used to tuck me in every night saying I was her special angel, let out a small laugh behind her hand. "Well," Mom said, adjusting her festive sweater, "someone had to say it." My dad took a deliberate bite of his Christmas cookie and mumbled through the crumbs. Probably for the best. Time slowed to a crawl. The twinkling lights on the Christmas tree suddenly felt too bright, each bulb burning into my vision. My throat constricted like someone had wrapped tinsel around my neck and pulled tight. The metallic taste of shock filled my mouth as I watched their faces. Not one showing regret, not one person saying, "Wait, that's cruel." "My name is Sophia. I'm 17, and I'm the family's personal ATM. This is the story of how I made them realize what they lost. The orchestrated cruelty of it struck me like a physical blow. This wasn't spontaneous holiday dysfunction. This was planned. They'd discussed it, voted on it, and chosen Christmas morning as their stage for maximum devastation. But here's what they didn't know. I'd been expecting something like this. For months, I'd watched the signs, conversations that stopped when I entered rooms, side glances during family dinners, the way they'd ask me for money with increasing frequency, then treat me like furniture afterward. What started as occasional requests for loans had escalated into constant financial demands, always accompanied by guilt trips about family loyalty and helping each other out. My fingers trembled as I reached into my backpack, but my voice stayed steady. "Well, since we're sharing Christmas surprises..." I pulled out a thick red folder and placed it on the coffee table with a soft thump that somehow echoed louder than their laughter had. Emma's smile faltered. "What's that?" "Why don't you take a look?" I shrugged, fighting to keep my voice casual despite my racing heart. She snatched it up with that same smug confidence, flipped it open. Her face drained of color, like someone had pulled a plug. Her eyes went wide as dinner plates, scanning the first page with growing horror. When she turned to the second page, she let out a scream that could have shattered every ornament on the tree. The room that had been filled with cruel laughter went dead silent except for the crackling fireplace. My brother Noah grabbed the folder from Emma's shaking hands. He didn't say a word as he read, but his mouth fell open and stayed that way, like he'd forgotten how to close it. His eyes were glued to the pages like they contained state secrets. "It's all true," I said, and for the first time that morning, my voice didn't shake. Every word, every screenshot, every receipt. Mom's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Tyler stopped mid-unwrap of his new gaming headset. Even Uncle James carefully set down his mug, the celebratory mood evaporating like steam. "You want to know what's in that folder?" I asked, feeling strength flow back into my limbs. "First, let me tell you why I made it." I took a deep breath, centering myself before continuing. This didn't start today. This started years ago with little things. Emma was always the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect smile, perfect at making everyone believe her lies. And me, I was the reliable one. The one who never said no. The one who always had her babysitting money saved up for family emergencies. I gestured around the room at the expensive decorations and piles of presents. Half the things you're looking at right now, I paid for them. Dad's fishing equipment from last summer, my birthday money from Grandma, Emma's laptop for school, 3 months of my part-time job at the library, Tyler's gaming setup, every dollar I made helping Mrs. Patterson with her yard work. The silence was deafening now, broken only by the soft sound of Noah turning pages in the folder. "But it wasn't just the money," I continued, my voice growing stronger. "It was the way you treated me afterward, like I was supposed to be grateful for the chance to fund your happiness, like saying yes to your demands was the price of being part of this family." Emma finally found her voice, though it came out as a croak. "That's not..." "The folder has bank statements," I cut her off. Text messages, screenshots of your private group chat where you called me your personal ATM and laughed about how I was too stupid to say no. It has timestamps of every request, every guilt trip, every time you made me feel like I was selfish for wanting to keep my own earned money. Noah looked up from a page that had made his face go ashen. Emma, what is this? He held up a printout. This is a screenshot of you texting your friends about how you manipulated Sophia into paying for your spring break trip by telling her it was for family emergency funds. Emma's face turned the color of our Christmas stockings. I can explain. Don't. Noah's voice was quiet but sharp. I defended you to her. When she tried to tell me you were taking advantage, I told her she was being dramatic. I made her feel crazy for suspecting you. That's when Mom finally jumped in, her voice shaking. Can't we just calm down? It's Christmas morning. We should be focusing on family and gratitude. Gratitude? I turned to look at her slowly. You want to talk about gratitude? You're the one who taught me that being grateful meant never asking questions. That being a good daughter meant emptying my bank account whenever someone in this family had a want they couldn't afford. Dad rubbed his temples like he had a migraine coming on. You're making this bigger than it needs to be, Sophia. Family helps family. That's how it works. No, Dad, I said, my voice rising for the first time. Family doesn't exploit family. Family doesn't vote to disown someone on Christmas morning after bleeding them dry for years. You all saw what was happening. You heard the constant requests for money. You watched me get smaller and quieter every time I handed over cash I'd worked for. And you did nothing. Emma stomped her foot like a toddler having a tantrum. Stop playing the victim. You chose to help us. Nobody forced you. I stood up slowly, feeling taller than I had in years. You're right. I did choose to help, but you chose to exploit that help instead of appreciating it. You chose to see kindness as weakness. You chose to turn me into your personal bank instead of treating me like your sister. Noah was still staring at Emma with something that looked like heartbreak. Is all of this true? He asked her quietly. For the first time, Emma had no quick comeback. No tears, no excuses. Just silence. She told me you were making things up, Noah whispered, his voice barely audible. She said you were jealous and trying to cause drama. I never had to make anything up, I replied. I just had to start documenting the truth. Emma's face twisted with what might have been genuine emotion for the first time that morning. I had to protect myself. You were always trying to make me look bad. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Emma, you did that all by yourself. The room fell silent again until I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a white envelope. What now? Dad asked, sounding exhausted. I placed it on the coffee table next to the folder. Noah picked it up with trembling hands, opened it, and read the first line. His eyes went wide as saucers. What is this? He whispered. Those are Emancipation papers, I said, my voice steady as bedrock. Signed and filed yesterday with the help of a legal aid attorney who specializes in cases like mine. When parents financially exploit their minor children, the courts can grant early emancipation based on documented abuse. I gestured to the folder. Everything in there was submitted as evidence. Mom gasped, her hand flying to her chest. You're really leaving? On Christmas? Starting right now, I confirmed. Her voice cracked and real tears started falling. You're being so harsh, Sophia. We made mistakes, but we're still your family. I looked at her with more calm than I'd felt in months. No, you're not. You made that decision this morning when you voted to disown me. I'm just making it legal. Emma let out a bitter laugh that sounded like breaking glass. Fine, you'll be back. You always come back when you need something. I took a step toward the door, then turned back one final time. The difference is, Emma, I never needed your approval. I just thought I wanted your love. Now I know those were never the same thing. I walked out without another word, leaving behind the twinkling lights, the expensive presents I'd helped buy, and the toxic dynamic that had been slowly poisoning me for years. The cold December air hit my face like freedom. I didn't go straight to my car. I stood on the front porch for a moment, my hands shaking, not from fear or sadness, but from the pure adrenaline of finally standing up for myself. For years, I'd been shrinking myself to fit into their idea of who I should be. Now, for the first time, I felt like I was exactly the right size. My phone started buzzing before I even reached my car. Text after text, call after call. I turned it off without reading them and drove to the community center where I'd volunteered the night before, helping serve Christmas dinner to families who couldn't afford their own celebration. Mrs. Rodriguez, who ran the center, took one look at my face and wrapped me in a hug that smelled like cinnamon and understanding. She'd been helping me navigate the emancipation process for months, providing the stable adult reference the court required. "Family troubles?" she asked gently. "Former family troubles," I corrected, and for the first time that day, I smiled. The next few weeks brought exactly what I'd expected: a rotating cycle of guilt trips, fake apologies, and increasingly desperate attempts to reel me back in. Mom left tearful voicemails about how empty the house felt and how they couldn't afford the mortgage without my contributions, the first time she'd ever admitted how dependent they'd become on my income. Dad sent texts about sudden financial emergencies, now that they had to pay for Tyler's gaming equipment, Emma's car insurance, and all the other expenses I'd been covering. Emma alternated between furious messages calling me selfish and syrupy sweet notes about how much she missed me. But the most telling message came from Noah 3 weeks later. "Found out Emma's been lying about a lot more than just the money stuff. I broke up with her after I discovered she'd been cheating with my best friend Marcus for 2 months. She admitted she only stayed with me because she thought it would keep you from exposing her lies. We broke up. You were right about everything, and I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner." I didn't respond to any of them. The silence felt like the most luxurious gift I'd ever given myself. Instead, I threw myself into building the life I'd always wanted. I got a job at a local bookstore where my manager appreciated my work ethic without exploiting it. I enrolled in community college classes, using the money I'd been saving, money that was finally mine to keep. I made friends who liked me for my terrible jokes and my tendency to remember everyone's coffee orders, not for what I could buy them. The small apartment I rented with money from my bookstore job became the first space that was truly mine. For the first time in years, I slept through the night without anxiety dreams about family confrontations or demands for money I didn't have. The attempts to contact me gradually faded, replaced by secondhand reports from former family friends. Emma had moved back home after several failed relationships and was working at a fast food restaurant to help with bills. My parents were struggling with the mortgage payments they'd grown accustomed to me covering. Tyler had to get a part-time job to pay for his own gaming equipment, something he resented deeply. The guilt I expected never came. Instead, I felt something I'd never experienced before: genuine peace. 6 months later, I received one final message. Not a text or voicemail, but a letter in Mom's handwriting, forwarded through Mrs. Rodriguez at the community center. It was short. "Sophia, I've been thinking about that Christmas morning and all the Christmases before it. I see now what we did to you, how we took your kindness and turned it into obligation. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I'm proud of who you've become without us. Merry Christmas." I read it twice, waiting for the familiar tug of guilt or the urge to reach out. Instead, I felt something like closure settling over me like a warm blanket. I folded the letter and put it in my desk drawer, not as a keepsake, but as a reminder of how far I'd come. This Christmas, I'm working at a soup kitchen on Christmas morning, then having dinner with Mrs. Rodriguez and her family, people who earned their place in my life through kindness, not blood relation. I'm not the same girl who used to hand over her earnings without question, hoping that generosity would translate to genuine love. I've learned that real family doesn't vote you out on Christmas morning, and real love doesn't come with a price tag. Some people might say I was too harsh, cutting off contact completely, but I know the difference now between being kind and being used. I know the difference between helping someone and being someone's personal ATM. And most importantly, I know the difference between being wanted and being needed for what you can provide. This year, I'm giving myself the best Christmas gift of all: a life where my worth isn't measured by my willingness to say yes to everyone else's demands. For the first time in 17 years, I'm exactly where I belong. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.